Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the next installment of the adventures of Dr. Douglas Gabriel and the Interviews with an Exorcist series. And we're going to continue on, as you can tell by my flowered shirt. We're still going to be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the beautiful subtropical Hawaiian Islands. Dr. Gabriel, how are you?
I'm doing great, John. And I want to thank all the people who leave comments because they have led me in all kinds of interesting avenues of reverie and remembering these things and turning me on all kinds of new things. And so I have to go and do research before each one of these so that when I say something, it isn't archaic. You know, if I quote the population of the Big Island as it was when I was there, 70,000, and now it's 200,000. You know, it's a big adjustment. There were a few people there when I went there. And one person said, you know, these stories remind me of what might have happened on Atlantis. And then all of a sudden it bong. Well, of course, I'm supposed to be talking about the fact that this is a fire initiation, and it will replicate very much what happened on ancient Lemuria. So when you're talking about these volcanic Hawaiian islands, there's not much difference between that and Lemuria. And remember, I went down into these caves, and in Lemuria, humans were coming out of caves. But now I'm going down into the caves. And as soon as I get there, I get initiated into the fire goddess, the Tibetan, it's called a mother tantra. And this mother tantra is focused on a being called Vajrayogini. Well, she's an amazing creature. She's naked. She's breaking the neck of pride, standing on his head, standing on the stomach of compassion. So everything she does is compassion. She's drinking her own blood from a skull cup and has a curved knife in the other hand to chop up her body and has a cross over her shoulder. And I'm going, wait a second. These are all Christian images. You know, the Holy Grail, the Spear of Longinus, which chops up your body. And I'm like, this is so, what do I get introduced to as soon as I get to Hawaii? I get the initiation from literally the highest people in the Sakya tradition. There's a man and a woman that are married to the king and queen of the Tibetan Sakya tradition. And then there is the highest monk, and he is named Ludingkin Rinpoche. And then for these highest tantras that they have, the highest teachings in any Tibetan tradition of the four major schools, and the fifth, the Bonpo, is a female tantra. There's no such thing as only a male tantra. There has to be either a male and female or just a female. Well, this is just the female. And so I get initiated into this. And then the Tolku, literally, they say that this woman, Jetsun Kushla, was the physical incarnation of the being of Vajrayogini. And Vajrayogini is the consort of the 10,000 Buddhas. She's what completes all of the Buddhas. And you're like, oh, wow, I'm being, you know, I'd heard of this tradition, but here I am being invited, and there's only 12 of us, and we get this initiation. And basically they say, if you continue this faithfully, and I trained to do it by myself, not with a consort, and if you do it faithfully every day of your life, then you will reach enlightenment in this incarnation or in your next incarnation. And if you have this initiation, then it guarantees that in the next incarnation, you will have it again. This is their tradition. I'm just quoting their tradition. And why did I do this? Because remember my PhDs, the reason that the Catholic Church didn't like me is because I was always into Mother Mary devotions. And I demonstrated in my two PhDs that the original Trinity is the great goddess, the triple goddess of birth, death, and rebirth. And that is the ubiquitous faith from literally from the Copper Age, Stone Age on back. It was all matriarchal. And so I plotted this in history, and I showed that in the Catholic Bible and the whole thing, everywhere you look, every single traditional religion, look closely, you'll find that there's the Hyel or Helix or the ocean or the dark waters or whatever they name, that is the goddess. Now, after going to Hawaii, I came back because I was so sick that thought I was dying. So I immediately had to write what I experienced on the island when I encountered Pele as the triple goddess. So I asked John to give some poems. He'll recognize this. He's got a bunch of poems in this book. Goddess Meditations from Isis to Sophia, 365 wisdom poems to invoke, visualize, and embody the goddess. This right here, that's Tibetan Buddhist tantric deity worship. Invoke, visualize, and embody. And John gave a bunch of poems for that, and I was possessed until I wrote 28 poems to this goddess that I encountered on the big island of Hawaii, right? And Robert Thibodeau donated some, and Sharon and Howard and you guys, what'd you call you guys? Some poems that these guys channeled these. I watched them do it. Channeled these spiritual poems that were so cool.
Oh yeah,
They're all
we
found
did.
in here.
Yeah, we did. I did a poem with Howard Weingarten and Sharon Pele Mason. We were having coffee in a restaurant, and I said, "Let's do this." And I took a napkin. I said, "I'm going to write a line and fold it so you can't see it, and then you write a line and then you fold it, and then she'll write a line." And so we did that, and we came out with a poem that is cohesive, and we didn't give any subject matter or anything to give anybody any clues as to what it was going to be about. Of course, we called it Francis Allen Darius was the author, and from what I hear, some folk singer guy made a song out of it, but apparently it's not on an album or anything like that. Doogie McLean, I think that. But anyways, you just triggered a memory that I hadn't thought about for a long time. I think what's important for people to realize, because we're dedicated to the mysteries of Christ, which are universal mysteries for all mankind, but a part of what was so unique about Rudolf Steiner's work is that he was able to show how the mysteries of the ancient world all converged and found their fulfillment through the mystery of Golgotha. And so what Douglas is talking about is very deeply rooted in what one would call the mystery of time. And Rudolf Steiner, in the lectures where he talked about the mysteries of the transfiguration and the resurrection, he talked about how Christ, through the deed at Golgotha, the crucifixion, gave back to people the mysteries of time, that they had lost their connection to that world because they had lost their archetypal memory through their ancestral memory and their clairvoyant relationship to the spiritual world. They had become truly earth beings, and we're now in this realm of abstraction. And so that's where we live for the most part today, is in the death processes of thinking. But he envisioned that through understanding the mysteries of time and through art and music and things of that nature, that one could awaken a harmonious relationship to the etheric world. And so that's part of what Douglas is attempting to articulate here. It's interesting because if you go to the translation of the first verse of Genesis that was done by the Frenchman Fablevet back in the late 1700s, I believe, but it became very popular amongst the Freemasonic lodges. And he said that in the beginning, where Bereshith, where it goes into the creation story, he translated it, in the beginning, the hard-making power moved across the contingent potentiality of being. And so what Douglas is trying to articulate here is that contingent potentiality of being. And that's that image of Vajrayogini, that there's the earth and the water meeting the air and the fire.
Which is in this picture. Look closely and you will see this little guy down here. And what's he doing? Earth, fire, air, and water. These are the initiations. And what's he creating? Mineral, plant, animal, and human, but the human is threefold because she's got a lioness on each side. And so the triple goddess was around long before, ubiquitously in every culture. And why? Because people looked at a birthing woman and they went, wow, that's the most incredible thing that can happen. And then what would happen? Oh, the child might die. Because remember, at the moment of birth, there's also death. And then what happens? Even if the child dies, the mother can have another baby, rebirth again and again. And so, the men standing around were scratching their head and saying, well, if this isn't divine, I don't know what is. And that it's only simple logic, basically, to come up with the triple goddess who my PhD was on Maria Gambudis's original work, even before she did her book. Her third book. And so I put that in there, and it really ticked off every priest who I ever encountered who found out what I was doing, and they moved me on. That's the reason they moved me on every year to a new place, because they couldn't stand for me to stick it in their face and say, look, you bimbos, you have basically, what do they call it? Subsumed, usurped, and appropriated the power that women had. And all you have to do is look at Hawaii. The land is fire. And what is magma? It's liquid, and it's fire, and it becomes land. But in the process, the methane explosions and what you see when you get any type of this stuff, because look, it sends off a giant plume into the air. So those are the initiations of earth, water, air, and fire. And I went through them. And before, John can testify to this, I was very thin, very choleric, and very sanguine. I mean, like, you mentioned melancholia to me, it's like I'd laugh at you and then run off to do something fun. Or if you mentioned phlegmatic, I'd say, get away from me, don't even, no, I'm not going to sit down. Why would I sit down? There's so much world out there to conquer. Then I go to Hawaii, fall down for 3 days with some kind of illness. To this day, they can't tell me, thousands of tumors now and blah, blah, blah. And it's like I almost die, bleeding from every orifice when I came back. And the doctors just said, oh, all of your organs are melted down. We don't understand this. Yeah, well, I told you last time this, because if you breathe through your mouth, you're swallowing sulfuric acid if you're near this volcano. So it doesn't take a genius to figure this out. So I'm warning everyone. And people are telling me that they're not going to go to Hawaii now. They've always desired to go to Hawaii, but they're not going to the Big Island because of the horrible things I've told them. And I'm only getting started. Now, when we're talking about this triple goddess and the experience, Tyler had the same thing, as she also had the Damascus experience. And so you can find this, a write-up of this, which is kind of a congealed version of both my experience and her experience in this book, The Gospel of Sophia. I want to, at some point, read 3 paragraphs, but I have to build you up so you understand why these 3 paragraphs are so significant. Because afterwards, after I had this experience of looking to a skylight, okay, and that means the magma's flowing downhill from Pu'u'o'o, and I'm on lava that's breaking. It's breaking beneath you because it's only thin because beneath you is flowing a river of magma. And then a hole falls, and then a part falls down, and you got a hole, and you can look in it. But if you do, you will burn your face off. And as you're looking, remember, the hole was created by the lava breaking. So if you want to get right close to this, that lava is going to break. So I had only two people I could find brave enough with me. I told this story before, 2 young men, and I made them each carry a staff. I had a staff. So my staff was being held by the one guy, and he was holding, sticking his staff out, and the other guy was holding that. And they were holding me from falling in, and I looked in. But this was after we took, big chunks of lava and threw it in there, black lava, and threw it in there. It would incinerate, vaporize before it would hit the magma. And this magma, strangely enough, because magma does this sometimes, it was flowing downhill, but then right here, it like reached a reverse waterfall, and it went up. And then it came level, and it turned into a big lava lake with a roof over it. Not very high roof, because it was, downhill. You could actually see what would be the roof. But I'm looking in there, and I see the triple goddess. I see Pele. Now, when I'm talking Pele, when you're on the big island of Hawaii, you say Pele, and anyone who knows what they're doing, who's lived there for any period of time, automatically becomes reverent because they know someone whose house has been taken by the lava. Our favorite beaches were taken by the lava. I did research and found out that all but one of my favorite places in Hawaii have been taken by the lava in the years since I've been gone. There's only one hot pond left down in Pohiki. All these places have been taken. While I was there, some of my favorite places were taken because you have to have respect for this lava. She's at the moment of birth when the lava is turning into land, and it's like a liquid and an air and fire all mixed together. When it's turning into land, you had better be careful. As I've told you many times, anytime you go down to see the lava flow, you're taking your life in your own hands in many cases. There are fines. I looked up the fines. Holy moly. $50,000 fine for doing what I did many times, and $100,000 fine if you take sand from the green sand beach, and a $5,000 fine if you take a single speck of a rock, a piece of sand, or any wood from the Big Island. And they're dead serious. Why? Because they know you will be cursed. And they really probably just don't want the karma, right? And the first thing you do when you get on the Big Island is you take an offering to Pele, a serious, prayerful offering, acknowledging she is a living goddess who will eat you, who will kill you, who will vaporize you, and your bones will never be found if you do not respect her. And unfortunately, I was stupid. I did not respect her completely.
Well, I mean, geez, if you've watched any old movies from the 50s where the plane lands in Hawaii and you get off and there's the women doing the hula and they're putting leis around your neck.
Yeah.
It's a ritual of reverence, really, is what it is. And you have to understand that the mysteries, these mysteries he's talking about, are the mysteries of birth, but they are also the mysteries of death. And birth and death, that's the fourth mystery. And earth evolution, we experience birth and death. We have this physical world that we live in and inhabit our bodies, our skin sheaths, and we live within the realm of space and time. And that's unique. And it's different from previous fourth stage incarnational periods for the beings that preceded us, the angels, the archangels, the archai, and so on. And so it behooves one to have a great respect for these types of mysteries. And if you go to what Rudolf Steiner says about Lemuria, when the Garden of Eden story originates, and where we really began our descent into matter with the division of the sexes and all of that, you have to keep in mind that it was the women. The beginning of language, Rudolf Steiner says, was the singing of the women.
Absolutely. And then the dancing of the women, because they took the rhythms that were the, part of the singing. And so the singing became the dancing, and the dancing, for instance, at the Kumbh Mela in India, every, 7 or 12 years, they gather and they by heart recite all their ancient documents. It takes 7 days, I believe. And the women are singing it and dancing it in monosyllabic language. So it goes ta 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 is the first opening words of the Rig Veda. And so yes, and so that was original Hawaiian dance. Hula was women, and then men took it over, and it became war dances. Same thing with so many other cultures. So when we're talking about this being, we're talking about a being that the people who really live on Hawaii, they understand this being, and if you don't make peace with her, she will throw you off the island. For instance, I've said this before. You may pack up everything you own, move from, bring it to California, put it on the one of those big, what do they call containers. You can put your car in there. You can put everything in there, and then you have it shipped to Oahu. Then it's shipped to Maui. Then it comes to the Big Island. But between Maui and the Big Island, there's 30, 40, 50-foot waves sometimes, and you lose the container. You lose everything you own. There's no insurance. welcome to the Big Island of Hawaii. My recommendation, take nothing but the clothes on your back when you go there, because everything's going to rust and get salty and just rot right off your body. Just wear your shirt until you can't wear it anymore, throw it away, get a new one, and always wear swimming trunks, because you want to swim. I used to have to swim. I didn't call it a good day unless I swam in three different places each day. And on Hawaii, that's easy. Down at the end of my street, there were tide pools. Go down further, and there's Black Sand Beach. And go 15 minutes, and I'm in the hot pools. The Pohiki hot pools were my favorite place. It was a place called Vacation Land. Some of the parents of the school lived down there, so I had the code. So I could get into this most exclusive place, probably on the Big Island, maybe in all the Hawaiian Islands. And there, the water comes up from the aquifer, and it's hot. And if it's near the ocean, if the ocean water gets near it, it creates a brackish, hot tub water swimming pool for you. And so the rich people have their house, and they take lava rocks and they build these beautiful pools around them. And you can swim in the pool, and it's all warm and beautiful and great. And then you can swim out over the edge of this and go out into the ocean, swim out there and come back. And there's like, I don't know, lots of these, right? Some of them are so big that it's called the Millionaire's Swimming Pool. And you could probably fit 300 people in there. I think it's now a park. But it was all eaten since I've been there. The lava came, rolled over the top of it. Oh, my Lord. But remember when I told you about the place I found that was the Star Teacher's heiau? Oh, we're right around that. You know how many times the lava flowing at a heiau splits and goes around it? It's uncanny. As a matter of fact, that's where we gathered at some of the Akua stones. Was Gary and I would go out into the lava to these heiaus where literally it had split and gone around. No one's taken the effort to take the sacred stones off the altar. So we brought them to Kalapana. Eventually, Kalapana was eaten by the lava. I don't know what happened to the sacred stones. But anyway, one day, Gary and I, now right now it's $100,000 fine to do what I did all the time, every weekend, which was if the lava was flowing some spectacular flow, we'd go see it. Doesn't matter what day it was, we'd go. And if you take people with you, well, we had to take 2 pairs of boots and usually a 3rd pair of shoes because it would burn your boots to you're on black lava, but beneath it is magma. And it's so dadgum hot, it'll burn your boots and make them stick if you stand long. So you always have to keep moving. You're crazy to go out there, right? Well, we did it all the time. So we're out there, and and the Rangers are coming. And I forget what the fine was then, but I didn't want to pay the fine. So we went along the beach, which you should not do, because that's where the lava comes out. Because the lava is just flowing flat. When it gets to the sea, it hits it. And so we're on a place we've never been before, and we come to this strange beach. We're like 10 feet above this beach, and it's not very big. It's probably 150 yards, and then there's probably 20 yards to the ocean. We're up on here. We're looking down at this going, oh, that's really, really cool. Let's jump down there on that beach. Okay. Probably everyone listening goes, oh, you are so stupid. Because right next, there's a wall of lava that's all hard. It's all black, big. It's like 10, 12 feet tall. And so we get down to this beach, and we're going out to the ocean going, this is really cool. There's no beaches down here. This is amazing. And so we come back, and we're standing there for a second, and then we're going, I go, something's wrong, Gary, something's wrong. And I look down, and my shoes are sinking into the sand, and I'm feeling heat come through my boots. And I'm going, holy God, there's magma beneath us, a sandy beach with the magma. And I'm thinking, we got to get the hell out of here. So we go to climb out this 10 or 12 feet thing, thinking it's no big deal. We jumped into it, and we couldn't climb out. We literally he had to boost me out. I mean, in like crazy boost. I had to grab a piece of wood from a sign that said, trespassing, $5,000 fine, or whatever it said. So I had to grab that, stick it down, help Gary climb out. And just as he's climbing out over to the side, that wall of lava breaks. The whole thing, probably, as I say, 20 yards long, 10, 12 feet tall, just boom, falls down, just in one big black lava, poof. And the magma flows in, fills in the whole damn beach in less than a minute. That's how close I was to being incinerated, no, vaporized, they wouldn't have found our bones. So here we have a pool of lava, magma in the area we were just standing, but it's percolating. You know, when you see lava, it's usually flowing in a river, but here it's percolating, right? Percolating. So we go over and take this sign. You won't believe the next thing I'm going to tell you. So we're throwing in pieces of the wood of this sign. It doesn't get this far from the magma, and it incinerates. It vaporizes. So my friend Gary says, "Come on, help me get this metal sign off here." I says, "But Gary, that sign says no trespassing, you know, huge fine, you know." He goes, "Doesn't matter. I gotta see what happens when I throw this in." So we pull this metal sign off, throw it in. It vaporizes before it hits the magma. There was nothing left of it. Nothing hit the magma. And that's the same thing with lava. You throw, no matter how big a chunk of lava you throw into fresh magma as it's percolating, it beyond incinerates it, it vaporizes it.
Yeah, I remember driving across the country and out in the middle of Nebraska somewhere, and a meteorite's coming down. And we're watching it come down, and then like about 3 or 4 feet above the ground, it just went off into sparkles. Like totally vaporized. So yeah, the forces of transformation in nature, and which is an interesting image when you think about the future evolution of mankind, and that Rudolf Steiner talks about how in the future it will be through our development of consciousness that we come to the point to where we can, through our developed imagination, inspiration, and intuition, be able to create our future destiny for that period after Earth evolution is ended, after the moon's return to the Earth, the whole scenario. And that what we'll have is the ability to be able to resolve ourselves into the resurrection body through the force of consciousness. But those that don't develop themselves don't have that ability. And so they maintain in the granular realm of physicality. I mean, it's a powerful image of the apocalypse. And so you have this idea of birth and death. And mind you, as recently as like the 1900s, 1 of 5 women died in childbirth, right? And you look at these people, like some women would have 12 kids, and 4 of them died. And I mean, death was much more present than it is today with people, because we've developed certain abilities, and we have brilliant midwives, like Linda, for example. She's given over 500 births and hasn't lost a single one. So it's the mysteries of birth and death. They can inspire respect out of pretty much anybody, except for somebody who is so lost in materialism that they can't even conceive.
Well, all my life, I wanted to get out of this hellhole because I knew there's a heaven, and I was ready to go there because I didn't like this stuff down here. So as I've told the story, I once tried to jump into ball lightning so it would disintegrate me. I've jumped into places where you shouldn't swim because I was hoping that the water would drown me. And so when I'm looking in looking into this volcano, I'm thinking I'm Empedocles, the Greek philosopher who believed all things came from fire and returned to fire. So he mythologically, or legend says, he jumped into Mount Etna and gave himself over to the volcano. And I'm thinking, what a great way to go, man. I mean, you're just poof, there's going to be nothing. I'm not even going to feel a hit. It's just jumping. You're like, poof, you turn into fire, right? Oh, I was into that. I used to be into Heraclitus, which is who said everything's from water and you can never stick your foot in the same river twice because it's always moving. That's me. Oh, yeah. But no. Then I turned into this fire worshiper. And then I do these meditations, the Tibetan meditations, in a Christian way that makes me be initiated, that gets me the chance to be initiated into fire. And then I go up and I literally, insanely, obsessively have to get as close as I can to Pele, even if it burns me up. It doesn't matter. I'm like, I was not a thought in my mind that if I fell in there, that I was going to have any regret. And I'm not kidding. I was like, that would be fine. And because I'm going to read you in a minute what I saw, and it then became the inspiration for the rest of my life. Most of my, because at the same time, once I saw the triple goddess, I was able to see that the Waldorf curriculum is what Steiner calls the three mothers. It's the training of the mineral, plant, animal, or the physical, etheric, astral. So everything became a manifestation of the triple goddess to me. And now when I look at things, I can see right through them not because of clairvoyance, but because if you look for the spectrum of experience between the extremes of the left and right, and you come back to the middle, you'll actually understand it. But if you just start in one of those three places, you'll never understand the whole flow. And it's about flow. And that's what meeting Pele really did for me. Was it taught me that the past, present, future are all one, as John's talking about. There's no space. All the most beautiful spaces I was ever in Hawaii got eaten by the lava. You should see them now. They look like a moonscape. You can't even walk on it. If you did, you'd be half crazy, because if you slip and fall, you cut yourself with razor cuts. So, on Hawaii, it's beautiful, but we have to remember that beauty brings power, and power, if you're not ready for it, can do you in.
Yes, absolutely. That's again, we keep returning to that threefold mystery, the three pillars of the temple, where you have wisdom, beauty, and strength, or you have thinking, feeling, will, or you have the brow, the throat, and the heart chakra. The chakras below the heart chakra, we should have already worked that out in earlier incarnations, and so we have this mystery that we're working on within the mysteries of time. And to be able to convert time into space, Novalis talks about that. You have to convert space into time and time into space. And so you have this whole idea of having a more fluid yes, fluid is a good word, because we're going from the Mars, the consolidation, up to the incarnation of Christ, and now we've entered into the Mercury half of Earth evolution, which is really the development of that fluidity. And so, but it's interesting because the Greek philosophers, you can look at them and you can see that they came up with a philosophy that matched their temperament. So those that came out of whether sanguine or choleric or melancholic, or what have you, that was their description of reality. And Steiner does talk about our guardian angels that are actually working through a particular temperament. He says we can change, they stay the same. And so that's again quite interesting, that one would see one's worldview as a result of the temperament of your guardian angel. I mean, try to wrap your head around that a few times, and it's transformative. Once you figure that one out, there's no going back, because that you begin to unfold your relationship to this idea of the triple goddess. That you have always hit, like in Tibetan Buddhism, they always talk about wisdom and means, and the wisdom aspect is the feminine aspect, and the means is the masculine, and you always have those two working together through the tantras, unless, like you say, you just have a tantra that's devoted to, like, say, Vajrayogini, for example. So it's quite fascinating, and these are all deepening. And the greater that we can enter into this, the more profound our relationship to our current state of being, and we can actually serve as a transformative impetus for things around us, and we have no idea. There's no quantitative way to measure it. It's all qualitative. And so what can you do to improve the quality of your consciousness, to try and alleviate the chaos and suffering, but also experiencing the joys? And so you have that whole idea of the fragility of human mortality as just, that is something that anybody should be able to respectfully bow their heads, because we all come and go, don't we?
Yeah, unfortunately, even though some of us, when we were born, we were told, don't worry, science is going to make us live forever, even if it's in a machine. But, when you get to the Big Island and everything's raw, for instance, there were so many strange communities there. There were people I knew who would live there for years and years and years, get ready, on nothing but coconut. Nothing but coconut, not even water. Okay. So there was many times in the early, when I was there for the first year, I went out and I'd go to these places which were completely wild. Nobody was there. And there's so much fruit grown from the villages that were there before that you could just pick up the fruit off the ground and stay there for as long as you want. Usually right on the ocean in almost all those cases. But anyway, there was I did a lot of scuba diving there, and even took, as I told you about a place called Kalani Hanua. I would take people on these tours because I became very famous because my friend Gary knew the owners of Kalani Hanua, who were dear friends of mine, and they always had these retreats. Now I go on, how many, that was the only retreat place I knew, except when they did Spring Renewal Retreat on Maui, which was when all the divine people came down, like Ariel and Aravinda, from their clouds to dance around in circles and make offering, and I'd go to that because it was cool. It was very great, beautiful, wonderful, healing people and all this stuff. Now there's like 200 of them all throughout the islands. And I know some of the places where they say, come to this retreat in this beautiful place. No, it's not beautiful. That's Hilo. It's going to rain on your ass. And you are going to be so sorry you went to the Hamakua coast. You're going to say, why did they charge me $2,600 for this? But anyway, there was one place, Kalani Hanua. Everybody came there. I don't know why. It was a beautiful, wonderful place. But it was in one of these places in Hawaii that you go, this is not what they told me Hawaii is. Black rock lava beaches that would kill you. You can't walk on them. You can't go swimming there. It would kill you. The volcano road you had to take to go to Kalani Hanua, where you could see a Pele on the side of the road, frequently, and you'd go back to pick her up and she wouldn't be there. So there was all this. People knew it was a spiritual place. So Kalani Hanua would ask me to come and do tours for these people. So they'd come for a week or two, and then I'd go once and say, where do you want to go? I'd describe some places, take them there. So everybody, let's see, Tony Robbins, Ken Wilber, Ram Dass, Timothy Leary, Jerry Garcia. Oh, the list was just every week or two, there was some other person who, Lynn Andrews was always coming there. She came there every year. So did Jerry Garcia 3 times a year. And then these people would hire me, but I did it for free. They'd have to, by hiring me, they'd have to follow me if they could. And I'd take them to places like, there's this one place where there's this big waterfall coming out of an old lava tube. And if you're insane enough to climb up, go into the lava tube, go a long ways, like 100 yards in the dark, practically, to come out into this valley, you are into a valley that you're expecting to see dinosaurs any second. And yet there's enough fruit trees there, you could live there for the rest of your life. So that was my specialty, finding these absolute perfect places. So all these crazy people moved there. People who lived on nothing but coconut. People who had these bizarre diets, who grew things there. So everybody tried to eke out their own little paradise. And, I had a little paradise. I had an acre of land, over 250 trees on it, and I didn't have to leave my property. I could eat the fruit that fell to the ground. I didn't even have to leave. Later, I put a school on it and made a ton of money just from the little school that was on it. So everybody's doing that in Hawaii now. And the population is almost 3 times what it was when I was there on the Big Island. So don't expect to go there from these stories. This is what we're trying to say. The initiation process is one of earth, water, air, and fire. Earth, water, and air, physical, etheric, astral, or body, soul, and spirit, you could call it. But it's the fire. We're all a slow-burning fire. And when you go to Hawaii and you face Pele, it's a fast-burning fire. It's burning so fast, you can't conceive of it, okay? You literally cannot conceive of this. I'm not exaggerating. So one place that I wanted to describe to you before I read to you something here, which is the encounter with Pele, which I wasn't expecting, though I'd studied the triple goddess. And I studied Vajrayogini. It never crossed my mind that if I truly encountered her, but what did they say about her? They say if you meet her on the road, she could be an old crone. Look carefully and she'll show you great spiritual wisdom. Or a beautiful young maiden who has long black hair and like fiery red eyes. Or the crone, the maiden, and the mother. And if you get to the mother, which is in the middle, that's the one that gives forth the magma. Well, are you ready for that? Are you ready for creation? Are you ready for birth and death right in your face in the present? None of the people I knew who moved there were ready for that, even though they were flirting with the volcano by putting their house in a path downhill from an active volcano that had been going off since I don't even know. It had been going off for 20 years when I was there. Never stopped. So this is a direct experience of the great goddess. Rudolf Steiner calls it the three mothers. And they're under the earth. They're telluric forces, chthonic forces. They are the forces of the earth, what we would call Gaia. Most people would call Gaia. But Gaia is not a sweet little bunny on Easter, Estaria. Gaia is Pele. And Pele will get your respect whether you wish to give it or not. That's just, you don't get a choice, okay? And if you're in a lava tube and she belches, just the steam would fry you and your bones would be left. But that's it. If you're in one of her hot tubs, underground, natural hot tubs, forget it, folks. You know, everyone I ever went in, I found human bones. Okay. So I'm out on this area. I'm driving along what is a moonscape of the Kona side where it's all black lava, just nothing but black lava, nothing. And if you can't walk in your flip-flops on this, you better be in boots, high boots, because everybody twists their ankle the second they start walking on lava. So I get a hit. Pull over, and I go out, and it's like miles, and I come to the most beautiful beach, breathtaking, incredible, and it's got an inlet, so it's like a bay, and it's got a small inlet into this bay, and I'm sitting there with some friends who were crazy enough. I can't remember whether we had to climb over a fence on that one. No, I don't think so. And then we're sitting there, and then every minute, a green turtle, a painted green turtle, comes up in this brackish water, looks at us, and goes down. And we're sitting there, and we watch this for hours, and we're going, how many are there? There must be hundreds of them. We don't see any coming in the inlet because the water was that perfect and clear, white sand beach beyond it, and even a little island out there we could swim to. One of the most beautiful places. No one I know had ever gone there, and all the time I'd been there, 6 whatever years I was ever there. So we get our scuba gear, we come back, we go into this thing, we go underneath. It's all brackish. We're having to feel our way. We come up, and where are we? We're in a cavern where there are dozens and dozens of big-ass green turtles. And then it was like an experience beyond anything you could imagine. We knew it had to go somewhere, and they had to go somewhere, but we weren't ready for what we saw. And so we came out, and then we reported it, and they put fences around the area. That's right. There wasn't fences to begin with. And they guarded it because it was then named, we got to name it, Green Turtle Lake. I think that's what we named it, because it's a little pond kind of off the ocean. And so there was every weekend, let's see, that's 52 weekends in a year. And multiply that times 6, that's 300 places I could tell you about right now, just like that. And I'm so hesitant. I mean, it's so hard for me not to say, oh, let me tell you about White Lake. Let me tell you about the Cog Falls. Let me tell you this. Listen, folks, it's unbelievable, but don't go there. It's not a very nice thing. But as a person who was very psychic, I can tell you, if you go there and you're not a spiritual person, it's going to eat you alive. It's going to rocket you out.
Okay. When are you going to read? You. And that you keep telling us you're going to read, but you don't read. Dennis has a tendency to go out into the weeds.
Yeah. No, not me.
So Tyler runs in the room with a spear and pokes him a little bit.
Okay.
Come on now.
This is from Tyler's book, Tyler Gabriel, indeed. The Gospel of Sophia. This is just the first. There's 3 of them, and it's an initiation process. It is for men or women, and it's incredibly deep. Now, this is a combined experience. We've combined our experience. Here it goes. That's when I saw her, Pele, the triple goddess. The light had begun to coalesce into 3 separate forms, all hovering above the infernal lake. 3 beings, 3 sets of eyes came into focus, and they were all looking at me into my eyes, and it seemed to me into my very soul. On the left was a naked young goddess, all red, dancing on a lotus flower, her eyes filled with compassion. She had 3 eyes, one in the middle of her forehead. Her third eye was looking into heaven. As flames leapt about her, she drank her own blood from a raised skull cup. She had a cross over her shoulder. A bell and drum sounded loudly. I recognized her as what I would call the form of Vajrayogini, a goddess whose image had been imprinted on my mind from my Tibetan studies. I realized that this Holy Mother consort was the creator of fire and earth, the mysteries of birth and the past. She is the dark goddess who is actually brilliant red, but few have ever seen her. It was she who was sought after in the underground mystery centers where the secrets of fire were taught. In the center was a pure, beautiful goddess of light, seated on a luminous throne and clothed in a long, flowing white veil studded with stars, burning stars. Her form was white with heat, so white that I could see right through her. Another veil covered her eyes and most of her face. From her heart came flashes of white light that were as wispy and soft as a cirrus cloud. She had many veils about her that moved and flowed with the rhythm of the rivers of magma beneath her. Though she herself was sitting still, hands firmly holding her throne, she seemed to be waiting patiently and attentively. Then I suddenly knew who she was. She was Eve, the mother of humanity. I saw her great suffering as she left the Garden of Eden and lived among many, many different people and lives, longing for creation in the purity of its beginning. She lived and died, gave birth, and saw death. Her wisdom grew. She gave birth to Jesus as the Mother Mary. My vision continued in what seemed like an eternity, only to be told later by Brian that it was only a moment that had passed. On the right was an entity of light that was not bound by one body, but seemed composed of creative swirls of energy resembling the wings of doves. Each swirl was filled with wisdom so profound that when I looked upon a specific one, any thought I had, any image formed in my mind, became an immediate picture mirrored back to me from her creative response. She was responding to my thoughts, filling them with the wisdom to understand this threefold being that I was beholding. The other 2 goddesses, forms, seemed to both surround and yet work through her creative, swirling energies. This third being revealed herself to me as the future, uncreated, yet continuously being created. She rules fate and destiny and is the nature of resurrection and new life born out of death. She was truly indescribable because she could take any image and coalesce it into any form, manifesting before my eyes anything that I wished to know.
How wonderful. Again, the idea of the triple goddess, you can find it in ancient Greece, for example. Shakespeare calls her Hecate, but in Greek it's actually Hecate. And she's holding three different implements representing this threefold nature. And so if we're going to approach these types of things, especially in this turbulent world, I'd love to share this short poem that Tyler shared before, that it will fortify us in our journey. It's for this Michaelic age. It's from Rudolf Steiner, and he says, and I quote, "We must eradicate from the soul all fear and terror of what comes towards mankind out of the future. We must acquire serenity in all feelings and sensations about the future. We must look forward with absolute equanimity to everything that may come. And we must think only that whatever comes is given to us by a world directive full of wisdom. It is part of what we must learn in this age, namely, to live out of pure trust, without any security in existence. Trust in the ever-present help of the spiritual world. Truly nothing else will do if our courage is not to fail us. And let us seek the awakening from within ourselves every morning and every evening, end quote. And there you have it.
That's one of the biggest helps in the modern age, to be calm about the future, because it usually brings us fear. And you know, I never could get another person to go up to that skylight with me to look in there, and I couldn't go alone because people were afraid. But later, when I thought about it, I wasn't afraid at all. I was ready to just merge with this being, because it's like, okay, I believe that the Father God is unmanifest, but the Mother God is very manifest. And when you see her, you just want to leap into her lap and, you know, and be wrapped up with her burning star pala, the cloak that she has. Please wrap me up in it and burn me alive. You know, really, that is all we're doing. As we approach our death, we are slow burning to our death. And if you can control the fire in your body, it can elongate your life. There are people who burn up fast and their whole karma is done in, you know, before they're 21 years old. And other people, they're 121 years old, still, you know, healthy and vibrant.
Yeah, I had you know, I used to be real big in nutrition, and I had this doctor, a student of our friend, Dr. George Goodhart, who invented kinesiology. And he told me about a story. He went to Hawaii, and they took him to this inner circle meeting, and they had this old woman there, and she had this big cauldron, and she was stirring this cauldron, and she had seaweed in the cauldron, right? And she's cooking up this brew, and they gave him this brew, and he said, after I drink that brew, I take my hands. They said, go like this. And he said, it felt like I had like electric mittens on. And but my nutrition product that I had at the time, that's why he was so interested in getting involved, had sea vegetation from north of Iceland, right? And so I would go to these health conferences, and I'd have people go like this and then take a sip and then go like this, and it would like dramatically change. Their eyes would bulge. There's deep mysteries in the ocean. There's deep mysteries in the volcano. And Rudolf Steiner does get into that in the Paris lecture series. And actually, my friend Paul O'Leary put together that book on the subterranean layers of the earth, which is quite a fascinating subject. But that fiery region has to do with human passion.
I would like to encapsulate this, and thank you for reading that verse. I think it's called the Michaelmas Prayer or something. It's really good. I have had it behind my door forever, because the way out is through fear. We have to walk through fear. What is fear is really basically you're not trusting Jesus Christ to show you the way. And so whether it's in this lifetime or another lifetime or one to come behind us, you have to go through the fear. And so when Douglas and I are writing about the volcano and the lava, we are trying to evoke that imagination through words. That's the volcano. And when you look at the world stage today, what do you see? It's on fire. And there you are. You're here. You're listening to us. You're probably doing just fine in your home, but you don't want to admit it because you're almost like you don't want to jinx yourself that, you know, I'm doing okay. I see the world on fire. Well, this is your personal experience. And so the reason I tell people to prep more than anything is to get yourself ready for whatever may come, that you don't have fear. So if that is putting extra things in your pantry or filling your gas tank up or putting a bunker under the ground, whatever it is, to help you bolster yourself to go through these very turbulent times that we're going through, because folks, there's no going behind now. Now that the missiles have been launched in the Middle East, this will play out and it will get worse every day. But you don't have to be caught up in that fear. You can understand that this is a spiritual journey we're all on. Thanks to Douglas and John for showing us what their life looks like going through this experience. And now you can be conscious of your own. So what a timely verse to have to read daily to fortify yourself.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, in terms of consciousness, that's that fear realm, that's the realm of the kidneys, right? And you can go into the Old Testament, and there's, I believe it's 11 different references to and he tried it in his reins, Well, reins means the kidneys. It's like a reins of a horse. It's like your chariot, and the two horses are your two kidneys. And then you have the liver. That goes to the anger challenge, and to be able to move above the realm of fear and anger, to be able to move up into the region of the heart, and then that opens out, and then you have a meeting of the periphery with the center, because you are the center of your universe, really. And so the only thing you're responsible for is where you are. And so with that being said, this has been a wonderful journey. I'm sure that Douglas has a million more stories. He always does. And I'm enjoying this more than anybody else. I feel kind of greedy because a lot of these stories, I've had little bits and pieces of them. It happened to stumble into conversations that we had between us, since we're going back into the 70s, being best of friends and all that. So that I can't wait to see the further adventures of what we'll call you Lama Dorje. You know, you're like a lightning bolt, hitting everybody with these ideas. But I want to thank you so much. And if you have some more stories, means, but I think that we don't want to overload people.
Yeah, because we don't want them to fear, but at the same time, you want to be like the old Hawaiians. You go to the old Hawaiians' house, and universally, in my experience, in the back room, they have 300 cans of Spam because they're ready. They're stocked.
Listen, what you do is you stand in the fire. You hold your spear. Whatever it is, you hold it and you stand in the fire. And in that fire, as hot as it gets, you remember this: Jesus Christ will lead you to freedom.